Let's clear the air right out of the gate. There is no such thing as a perfect hunting cartridge for everyone. And anyone who tells you otherwise is selling nostalgia or marketing hype. What actually matters is what works when conditions are real, distances are uncertain, and the shot has to count at center mass. That is exactly what this review project is about. Over this series on Scoper 360 Degrees, we are taking a hard, practical look at the one hunting cartridge that still makes the strongest case for being the #1 round every American should own heading into 2026. Not because it is trendy, not because it is new, but because it consistently delivers stopping power, accuracy, and reliability across hunting, sporting use, and realistic survival scenarios, all within legal boundaries. We are going to work through this logically, starting with the high-velocity, long-range performance of the 7mm Remington Magnum, and moving step by step toward the benchmark that everything else gets measured against, the .3006 Springfield. Along the way, I will separate real-world performance from internet myths, talk honestly about recoil, availability, cost, and versatility, and give you both objective data and my personal judgment from practical use. This is not a sales pitch. It is a grounded comparison meant for people who actually use their rifles, not just talk about them. If you are choosing one cartridge to cover open country, thick timber, and everything in between, this series is built for you. Let's get into it. Let's start where things get fast and flat shooting. The 7mm Remington Magnum. This is the cartridge a lot of hunters point to when the conversation turns to distance. Open country, long ridgelines, wide valleys. This is where the 7mm Rem Mag earns its reputation. It pushes sleek, high BC bullets that cut through wind better than most traditional hunting rounds. And that matters when shots stretch past what most people consider comfortable. From a practical standpoint, it delivers excellent stopping power on medium to large game with precise shot placement at center mass, even when ranges get long. Objectively, the numbers back it up. Typical bullet weights sit in the 140 to 175 grain range, with velocities that stay impressively high downrange. That translates into flatter trajectories and less guesswork on holdover compared to older, slower cartridges. Subjectively, this is where opinions start to split. The recoil is noticeable, sharper than a .308, but still manageable for experienced shooters. It is not abusive, but it will expose poor fundamentals fast. Rifle weight and stock design make a big difference here. Cost is another real-world factor. In 2026, 7mm Remington Magnum ammunition is not cheap. Expect to pay more per box than common short-action rounds, and availability can be hit or miss depending on location. In a sporting or survival context, that matters. You want something you can actually find when you need it. Still, for hunters who prioritize reach and precision, and who are comfortable managing recoil and ammo cost, the 7mm Rem Mag remains a serious contender and a logical starting point in this comparison. Next up is the .300 Winchester Magnum, and this is where the conversation shifts from speed to authority. If the 7mm Remington Magnum is about stretching distance with precision, the .300 Win Mag is about delivering decisive stopping power when the target is large, tough, and not giving you a second chance. This cartridge has earned its place in hunting camps and guide rifles for decades because it performs consistently when conditions are less than ideal and angles are not perfect. From an objective standpoint, the .300 Win Mag launches heavier bullets, commonly 165 to 200 grains, at very high velocities. That combination means deep penetration and strong energy transfer at center mass, even at extended ranges. It holds on to its effectiveness far beyond distances where many traditional cartridges start to fade. In real use, that translates to confidence. You know the round has enough margin to do its job cleanly when shot placement is solid. Subjectively, recoil clearly steps up here. There is no way around that. This is not a cartridge you casually shoot all afternoon without feeling it. For experienced shooters, it is manageable, especially in a properly set up rifle, but it demands respect. Ammunition cost in 2026 is also on the higher end, and while availability is generally good in the US, it is not as universal as more common calibers. In sporting and survival contexts, that is a trade-off. The .300 Winchester Magnum offers serious capability, but you pay for it in recoil, price, and practicality. Before we get to the .308, we need to talk about the .270 Winchester, because this cartridge quietly does a lot of things right and rarely gets the credit it deserves anymore. The .270 is not loud in the conversation, but it has been delivering real-world results for nearly a century. It was built for hunters who value clean trajectories, manageable recoil, and consistency over brute force. Objectively, the .270 Winchester typically runs bullet weights between 130 and 150 grains, pushing them at high velocities that create a naturally flat trajectory. In practical hunting distances, that means less adjustment, less second-guessing, and more confidence when placing a shot at center mass. Wind drift is reasonable. Recoil is lighter than the Magnums, and accuracy has always been one of its strongest traits. This cartridge thrives in open terrain, where distance and precision matter more than raw mass. From a subjective standpoint, the .270 is easy to shoot well. Recoil is smooth, not sharp, which encourages better habits and more time behind the rifle. In 2026, ammunition availability remains strong across the US, and pricing sits comfortably below Magnum cartridges, making it realistic to train with. For sporting use, hunting, and even survival planning, the .270 Winchester offers a clean, efficient balance of speed, control, and dependable stopping power without unnecessary excess. Leading into the final benchmark, we have the .308 Winchester, and this is where practicality takes center stage. If there is a cartridge that defines balance, this is it. The .308 does not chase extreme velocity or oversized energy numbers. Instead, it delivers consistent, repeatable performance in the situations most people actually encounter. That is why it continues to be trusted across hunting, sporting use, and realistic survival planning. Objectively, the .308 fires 150 to 180 grain bullets at moderate velocities that prioritize efficiency and accuracy. Inside normal hunting distances, it provides more than enough stopping power with solid penetration at center mass. It may not shoot as flat as the Magnums, but it stays predictable. And predictability matters more than raw speed.
Doing a functionality
Wind drift
test.
is manageable, recoil is controlled, and follow-up shots are faster and cleaner. From a subjective perspective, this is one of the easiest full-power rifle cartridges to live with. Recoil is firm but not punishing, making it accessible to a wide range of shooters. In 2026, ammunition availability is still one of its strongest advantages. You can find .308 almost anywhere, often at more reasonable prices than Magnum cartridges, and in a wide variety of bullet types for different legal uses. That versatility makes the .308 Winchester incredibly appealing, but it also sets the stage for why only one cartridge still edges it out at the very top. And this brings us to the 3006 Springfield, the cartridge that everything else in this conversation ultimately gets compared against. Some people assume its reputation is built purely on history, but that misses the point. The reason the .3006 still stands at the top going into 2026 is not nostalgia, It is performance that continues to hold up under real use. When you talk about one hunting cartridge that can adapt to almost any legal scenario without feeling out of place, this is it. Objectively, the .3006 fires the same .308 diameter bullets as the .308 Winchester, but with more case capacity. That extra room translates into higher velocities and a wider effective range of bullet weights, typically from 125 all the way up to 220 grains. What that means in practice is flexibility. Lighter loads handle flatter trajectories, while heavier bullets deliver deep penetration and reliable stopping power at center mass on larger game. It covers more ground than any single cartridge reasonably should. Subjectively, the recoil sits right in the middle. It is stronger than a .308, but more controllable than the Magnums. Most shooters can learn to manage it without sacrificing accuracy. In 2026, ammunition availability remains excellent, with prices generally more affordable than Magnums and a massive selection of factory loads. For hunting, sporting use, and long-term readiness, the .3006 Springfield remains the most complete, no-nonsense option. That is why it earns the #1 spot. Not because it is flashy, but because it works. If you have thoughts, experience, or a cartridge you think deserves this crown, drop a comment and let's talk about it. Hit like if this breakdown helped you, subscribe to Scoper 360 Degrees for more grounded, real-world reviews, and feel free to ask questions below. That conversation is what keeps this channel moving forward. When you step back and look at these cartridges side by side, a pattern becomes clear. The 7mm Remington Magnum dominates distance and wind. The .270 Winchester simplifies real-world shooting with speed and control. The .300 Winchester Magnum brings undeniable authority when margin matters. And the .308 Winchester proves that balance often beats extremes. Each one earns its place depending on terrain, experience level, and realistic use. But when the question is narrowed down to one cartridge, one rifle, and one decision that has to hold up across hunting seasons, sporting use, and long-term readiness, the answer keeps circling back to the same place. The .3006 Springfield sits at the intersection of versatility, availability, and proven stopping power. It adapts without compromise. It does not demand perfect conditions, specialized loads, or ideal distances. It simply works when shot placement is solid at center mass. That is why, heading into 2026, the .3006 remains the #1 hunting cartridge every American should seriously consider owning. Not because it is the newest, and not because it is the loudest, but because it continues to deliver where it matters most. If you agree, disagree, or have real field experience that tells a different story, drop it in the comments. That discussion is what shapes this channel. Hit like if this breakdown helped you. Subscribe to Scoper 360 Degrees for grounded, no-nonsense reviews. And ask your questions below. We read them, and they drive what comes next on the channel.